I'm Will Liebman, and I'll be your master of ceremonies this morning. Nationwide, baby boomers make up almost half of all companies with 500 or fewer employees. And as baby boomers retire, those businesses are either going to shift to the next generation or they're going to be put up for sale. It's been predicted that about 7.2 million of these businesses will be sold over the next 15 years. That means on average there will be 378,000 of these businesses sold each year for the next 15 years. And that got us to thinking about how our clients who may be interested in selling their businesses at some point can prepare to successfully enter this very competitive marketplace. So let me start by introducing you to my colleague, Jeff Gifford.
One of the things I specialize in is complex transactions, and just to kind of give you a time frame or an idea of what it takes to prepare, in my experience, usually at a short time frame, those who have been keeping up with the kinds of things they need to keep up with in order to sell their business, I would say the shortest amount of time you would be looking at would be maybe a 6 to 8 month preparation time frame, and typically you'd be closer to a year and maybe even 2 years to kind of get your house in order. I think the most important thing for any business owner to do at the outset is really to understand the value and profitability of your business. So if you go out and you get a professional valuation of your business, it really helps you to gauge your market position, your financial situation, as well as probably identify for you some of the strengths and weaknesses in your business and therefore the story that you're going to be telling to your potential buyers. The next most important piece to me, and this is really critical, is assembling your team. So when you assemble your management team, obviously, you're going to need some trusted folks within your company. They're going to be able to lift a lot of weight for you in a fairly potentially short period of time, as well as seek outside professional help from investment bankers, lawyers, accountants. All this work, all this preparation is going to be just that. It's going to be a lot of work. There's going to be a lot of heavy lifting. There's going to be a lot of things that you need to do to get your house in order. And as you're doing that, you don't want to take away from keeping your business profitable and going and growing. So that's another reason why it's so important as you make decisions on assembling your team, who it is that you know can help carry portions of those load that will still allow you and your internal management team to focus on keeping your business successful. The other thing I would suggest is being very careful about who you initially bring over the wall internally. I had a client who they brought a few of their management team members over the wall and said, hey, here's kind of what's going on. We need your help. There's going to be some interviews going on. Didn't bother to get confidentiality agreements in place with their internal team members. Pretty soon, rumors were running rampant throughout the company that the company was being sold. This employer started to see key employees exit the business. The buyers who were coming in were now saying, well, why is it you've lost 2 or 3 members of your key management team in the last 6 months? And who are you replacing those people with? And what's that going to mean for me? So really, really critical that as you focus on confidentiality, it's not just with your buyers, but also internally to be able to control the rumor mill. One of the most important things that you can begin doing pre-sale is to focus on your financials. Typically, I would say 2 to 3 years of audit are what most buyers will really want to see. All of your buyers, tremendous comfort in understanding where the real profitability and valuation of your business is. Also, an audit will help you identify, as is usually the case with most privately held or closely held or family-owned businesses, a variety of non-operational expenses. Where I'd like to focus, I think, the majority of my time is on what I'm going to call the internal due diligence. One of the things that we often encourage our clients is to have what we call a data room in place. And that data room is exactly what it sounds like. It's typically nowadays an electronic site where we keep and store all the critical documents to your business. so that a buyer who's under a confidentiality obligation can come in and they can start kicking the tires and peeling back the covers and getting a better understanding of what your business is and who you are and how you've operated, et cetera. The other thing I would encourage you to look at, especially these days, is corporate governance. Making sure that if there are key aspects to your business that you want to be able to show a buyer that you've done the training, you've educated your employees because you have policies in place, written policies in place, and you have a process by which your human resources department is consistently and regularly training your people on those kinds of important topics. The other nice thing about the internal due diligence process and getting this corporate governance in place is it allows you to identify things that you may not have known were there. You can plug leaks, patch holes, paint things up nicely so that you put your best foot forward by the time your buyers come around and you're into your marketing phase with your sales pitch and your practiced answers, so you don't drop that $30 to $40 million question when it comes. Some special family considerations. Please be thinking now. Consider hiring a consultant that can help you think about issues that specifically address family situations. Once you've done this internal due diligence and you've prepared your data room, a lot of times there will be a letter of intent. Please consider talking to professional advisors before you sign a letter of intent. Post-sale considerations. Often within the sales documents, there also will be a non-compete. We talked about the indemnities. So you might not receive all of your money at closing. Some of that money might come, whether it's out of an escrow arrangement or the buyer, making you continuing payments. And there's things that we can do to help negotiate that, to protect that money from the buyer simply being able to take it back. And so those are all things that you want to think about. Okay, thank you.
My colleague, Tyler Peace.
What are the goals of any kind of business succession and estate planning? Well, will the family business be kept in the family? And number one is parents fail to face their mortality. They don't want to believe that someday they're just going to either get older and can't handle the business anymore, or two, that they're going to pass. Another reason businesses fail all the time is that they don't turn over operating authority. They don't bring in the family while they're alive, while they're operating the business, to let them have a sense of how this thing operates. And then finally, treating the kids equally is not the goal. Equitably should be the concern. Now, if for some reason you're thinking about all these aspects and you just say, it's not going to be feasible to transfer this business down to my kids, what's more important might be in your situation to maximize wealth and then therefore distribute that wealth to the family. That might be the most harmonious situation. Some other reasons why you might want to liquidate rather than perpetuate the business is again, you have no qualified family member who can take over the business. And also it might be worth substantially more to some competitor out there than it is to your children operating it. Everyone in here, whether they know it or not, has a default business succession plan. You either have a will, or if you don't have a will, the state of Texas has drawn up a will for everyone in here, and that's called intestacy. So your will is going to act as your business succession plan if you don't do anything. Because this determines who your beneficiaries of your property, your shares of stock, your interest in your LLC. And it also is going to determine, more importantly, how they receive that property. Yeah. And another real, I think, key thing, a younger company owner really needs to think about is when you have children and when you're leaving, how you're going to provide for them. If you just give the property outright to your children, or if you just leave it in trust and name, the guardians as the people who are going to hold these assets for your minor kids, who are they and how are they going to be able to handle this? So you might want to separate that authority. So these are the decisions that are key when drafting those documents. If you don't have a will, the state of Texas has drawn one up for you. It's called intestacy. It tries to capture what you think you would want in most instances. It doesn't work all the time, doesn't work a lot of the time. It's there, but I wouldn't rely on it. Key also to your default plan, your will, are capacity planning documents, and this is vital for a business. The document that's used in this instance is a durable power of attorney. And this is where you appoint an agent to handle your affairs in the event you can no longer handle them yourself. You can make it effective upon becoming incapacitated, or you can make it effective immediately, and it's a matter of convenience. I mean, you need to have it because the alternative is just a terrible result, and that's guardianship. And what a guardianship is, it's a court supervision of your affairs. I mean, what you're going to do is you're going to have to go to the court. The court's going to have to appoint a legal guardian for you. And at that time, you're going to have to report every single thing you do on behalf of that guardian to the court, and they're going to have to approve it. We're entering the conversation of we're going to sell the business, we're going to sell it to a third party, we're going to sell it to the kids, we're going to give it to the kids. There's a lot of different ways to do this. And the key thing to understand here is our transfer tax system. The transfer tax system in the United States really involves two main taxes. It's the estate and the gift tax. And it has what is an exemption amount. That exemption amount is $5.34 million, and that's indexed for inflation. So you have a healthy amount that you can give away without paying a cent of estate and gift tax. And they're unified. You can either give it away during your lifetime, which is the gift tax, or you can give it away at death, which would be the estate tax. If you don't have assets above 5.34, you don't have to think about it as much. If you're hitting up against that threshold, we need to start planning for it. Everything over and above the 5.34 threshold, you're going to get taxed at 40%. So Uncle Sam's going to be a large beneficiary of your estate if you don't plan for this. Trust for children on their pre-sale planning. If you are going to sell to a third party, you might transfer some of your interest in the business to trust for your children. And the key here is that we have the ability to take discounts. What that means is we're able to transfer the asset for a much lower value than the true worth. Decide how much you want to give to the children. You can really leverage your ability to gift by using the IRS's rules against them. Now, a sale to your children, the goal here is to effectively take assets, push them down to the kids at a value that's going to be a discounted value, and we're not going to use one bit of your estate and gift tax exemptions. It's called a sale to a defective grantor trust. You have sold this asset from an estate and gift tax perspective for the true value of the company, yet from an income tax perspective, you don't have a capital gain tax on it. When the kids pay you interest, you don't have interest income involved with this. So it's really a win-win situation that you can structure your estate plan to move the assets to the children without having to incur any gift tax liability, any use of your exemption, and also get a little bit of money coming back to mom and dad, because that may be the goal. And then, of course, the last thing you have to do is you have to get an appraisal. So this is just a real big highlight on the two different ways you can start moving assets downstream. Let's hit these issues head on up front and plan for it. All right, well, thank you all.
Just a few quick closing comments. That does conclude our presentation. And again, I want to really thank you for your attendance today and your attention. I hope you've learned a few things. A lot of good practical advice here this morning. Shared a lot of different perspectives on the same theme. And our presenters, I know, will be hanging out here for a few minutes. So if you want to hang around and visit with them one-on-one, you're certainly welcome to do so. And again, thank you.